In Ardentia, the first thing Prince Jungkook learned was how to bow, not in respect, but in obedience. The marble floor of the royal hall was cold even through silk, the chill seeping into his knees as his head lowered at the exact angle his tutors had drilled into him since childhood. Not too low, never weak, not too high, never proud. Perfect. The court stood silent behind him. Generals in polished armor, ministers in heavy robes. Faces carved into stone by years of loyalty to a crown that demanded everything and gave nothing in return. At the far end of the hall, upon a throne built from conquest and blood, sat his father, the king. "You are late," the king said. Jungkook lifted his gaze slowly. His expression was calm, trained, practiced, but something fragile flickered beneath it. Something human, something dangerous. "My apologies, Your Majesty," he replied evenly. The council meeting ran longer than expected. The king's eyes narrowed. "You are a prince," he said. "You do not apologize. You command." Jungkook swallowed the words he wanted to say. "Yes, father." "No, father, I'm tired, father." Instead, he bowed again. "As you wish." Silence followed, thick, suffocating. Then the king rose from his throne, descending the steps with measured authority. Each step echoed like a verdict. "The southern border has fallen," the king announced. Stop! A ripple passed through the court. Jungkook's breath hitched, just barely. "The enemy has crossed the river Asera," the king continued. "They did not pillage, they did not burn, they waited." Jungkook frowned. That wasn't their way. They are led by Kim Taehyung. The name struck like a blade to the chest. Kim Taehyung. The enemy prince. The Shadow King. The man whispered about in war rooms and bedtime warnings alike. The king turned to Jungkook. "And you," he said coldly, "will go to meet him." The court erupted. "A peace envoy? Impossible. He's dangerous." Jungkook's heart thundered, but his face remained still. "I will not send an army," the king went on. "Not yet. Taehyung asked for you." Jungkook looked up sharply. "Me?" The king studied his son the way one studies a weapon. "He claims," the king said, voice sharp with disdain, "that the war does not need blood, that one prince is enough." A chill ran down Jungkook's spine. "Why me?" The king stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Jungkook could hear. "You will go," he said, "and you will remember who you are." Jungkook met his father's gaze. "I am your son," he said quietly. The king's expression hardened. "You are the crown." That night, Jungkook stood alone on the palace balcony, the city glowing beneath him like a living thing. Lanterns flickered. Music drifted upward. Life, so painfully distant from him. He pressed a hand to his chest. How somewhere beyond the river, beyond the border carved by hatred and history, stood the man he had been taught to despise, Kim Taehyung, the enemy who had asked for him by name. Jungkook closed his eyes, and for the first time, the crown felt heavier than ever. The river Asera did not roar. It moved quietly, dark and patient, reflecting the pale sky like a blade held still before a strike. Prince Jungkook stood at its edge, flanked by guards whose hands never left their weapons. Armor glinted, banners stirred, yet the air felt wrong, too calm. "They should have arrived by now," one general muttered. Jungkook said nothing. His eyes were fixed on the opposite bank. Then the fog shifted. Not rushed, not dramatic, as if the land itself made room. A single figure stepped forward. He was not armored. No crown sat upon his head. He wore black, simple, flowing fabric that moved with the breeze like smoke trailing a flame. His hair fell loosely over sharp, elegant features, dark eyes unreadable even from this distance. Behind him stood an army. Silent. Perfectly still. But all Jungkook could see was him. Kim Taehyung. He did not shout, did not threaten, did not raise a hand. He simply walked forward until the river lapped at his boots. And waited. Jungkook's breath caught. There was no rage in Taehyung's face, no cruelty, just calm, terrifying in its certainty, the kind of calm that belonged to men who knew they would win. "He came alone," someone whispered. Jungkook stepped forward before anyone could stop him. "Your Highness?" A guard protested. "I'm fine," Jungkook said softly. He removed his gloves and crossed the narrow bridge that had been built for this meeting, the sound of his boots echoing in the quiet. With every step, his heart beat harder. Taehyung watched him approach. Not like prey, like something precious he had been expecting. When Jungkook finally stopped a few feet away, the silence between them stretched, heavy charged. Up close, Taehyung was beautiful. Not soft, not gentle. Beautiful in the way storms were beautiful. In the way night swallowed light without apology. Taeyang inclined his head just slightly. Prince John Jungkook, he said. His voice was low, smooth, danger wrapped in silk. Jungkook swallowed. You know my name. Taeyang's lips curved, not a smile. I know many things about you. Jungkook lifted his chin. You asked for me. Yes. Why? Taeyang's gaze lingered on Jungkook's face as though committing it to memory. Because, he said calmly, this war will end with you. Jungkook stiffened. You plan to kill me? Taeyang stepped closer. The guards tensed. Jungkook didn't move. Taeyang stopped just short of touching him. No, he said softly. I plan to give you a choice. Their eyes locked. For a moment, the world felt very far away. What choice? Jungkook asked. Taeyang leaned in just enough that only Jungkook could hear him. Stay your father's prince, he whispered, or become free. Jungkook's pulse thundered. Taeyang straightened, expression unreadable once more. Come with me, he said aloud, as my guest. Jungkook stared at him, this enemy who did not threaten, who did not force. Behind him waited a kingdom that owned him. In front of him stood a man who offered him something terrifying. Freedom. Jungkook took a slow breath and stepped forward. Jungkook did not look back when he crossed the bridge. Each step felt heavy, but also lighter. Like something tight around his chest was slowly loosening. Taeyang walked beside him, not in front, not behind. Beside. No chains, no guards holding Jungkook's arms. The soldiers of the enemy kingdom only bowed their heads slightly as they passed. That alone confused Jungkook. You don't fear I'll escape? Jungkook finally asked. Taeyang glanced at him. If you wanted to run, you wouldn't have come. Jungkook had no answer. They reached a black carriage. Simple. No royal symbols. Taeyang gestured politely. After you. Jungkook hesitated, then stepped inside. The ride was quiet, not awkward, not tense, just calm. Jungkook kept stealing glances at Taeyang, his sharp jaw, steady eyes, relaxed posture. This was not how he imagined an enemy leader. You expected chains, Taeyang said suddenly. Jungkook blinked. Yes. Taeyang's lips twitched. I don't cage what comes willingly. The words stayed with Jungkook. In Luminara, when they arrived, Jungkook expected fear, ruins, misery. Instead, he saw children laughing in the streets, markets full of color, people bowing, not in fear but respect. They looked free. This is impossible, Jungkook whispered. Taeyang heard him. Your father calls us monsters, Taeyang said calmly, yet he never let you see us. Jungkook's chest tightened. They entered the palace. Dark stone, open windows, no heavy guards inside. This is your room, Taeyang said, opening a door. It was warm, spacious, a balcony overlooking the city. Jungkook frowned. You're not locking it? Taeyang met his eyes. You're my guest, Jungkook, not my hostage. Guest. No one had called him that before. Why are you doing this? Jungkook asked quietly. Taeyang paused. Because, he said, you deserve the truth before choosing a side. Jungkook sat on the edge of the bed after Taeyang left. For the first time in his life. No guards outside his door. No orders waiting for him. No crown pressing into his skull. Just silence. And choice. That night, Jungkook couldn't sleep. He stood on the balcony, staring at the city lights, when a soft voice spoke behind him. You're safe here. Jungkook turned. Taeyang stood a few steps away, hands in his pockets, giving him space. I don't know what to believe, Jungkook admitted. Taeyang nodded. You don't have to yet. Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. I won't force you, Taeyang said quietly. Not now, not ever. Jungkook exhaled slowly. For the first time, the enemy didn't feel like an enemy. He felt like a possibility. Jungkook woke up before sunrise. For a moment, he forgot where he was. No servants rushing in, no guards calling his name, no voice reminding him of his duties. Then it hit him. The enemy kingdom. He sat up quickly, heart racing, half expecting someone to stop him. No one did. The room was quiet, warm. Sunlight slipped through the curtains instead of being blocked by heavy palace walls like back home. Back home. The thought made his chest ache. He missed the familiar things, the palace corridors, the sound of morning bells, the garden where he used to train as a child. He missed his mother's smile before she passed away. He even missed the routine. At least there, he knew who he was supposed to be. Here, he didn't. Jungkook stepped onto the balcony. The city below was already awake. Shopkeepers opening stalls, children running with bread in their hands. A woman laughing freely without fear of being watched. No one bowed, no one knelt, they lived. Jungkook gripped the railing. My home would never allow this, he whispered. Was that a good thing or a bad one? Later that day, Taeyong found him in the palace courtyard, sitting near a small fountain. You didn't eat, Taeyong said, not accusing, just noticing. Jungkook shrugged. I wasn't hungry. A lie. Taeyong sat beside him, leaving space. You're thinking about your kingdom. Taeyong said. Thing. Jungkook let out a weak laugh. Is it that obvious? Taeyong nodded. People miss cages most when they're first opened. The words stung. My home isn't a cage, Jungkook said quickly. Taeyong didn't argue. He only asked, did it ever feel like one? Jungkook fell silent. Memories rose uninvited. His father's cold voice, the constant lessons, the way love always came with conditions. I was safe there, Jungkook said finally. So is a bird in a gilded cage, Taeyong replied softly. Jungkook looked at him. Then why do I feel guilty for breathing freely here? Taeyong's eyes softened. Because you were taught freedom is betrayal. Jungkook's throat tightened. That night, Jungkook stood in front of the mirror. No crown, no royal robes, just him. Who am I, he whispered, without my title? The question scared him more than any war. He lay down, staring at the ceiling. He missed his home. But for the first time, he wondered if what he missed was the place, or just the version of himself that never had a choice. The message arrived at dawn. Not with threats, not with armies, just a sealed letter bearing the royal crest Jungkook had carried in his heart since birth. His hands shook as he took it. Do you want me to stay? Taeyong asked quietly. Jungkook hesitated. Then he shook his head. No, thank you. Taeyong nodded and stepped back, giving him privacy without being asked. That alone hurt more than chains ever did. Jungkook broke the seal. His father's handwriting was sharp, precise, just like his voice. Jungkook, your disappearance has been noted. You will return immediately. Your presence with the enemy has already weakened our position. Remember who you are and what you owe the crown. This is not a request. The King Jungkook read it again and again. There was no "oh." Are you safe? No, are you hurt? No, my son. Just duty, just command. His chest felt hollow. So this is what I am to him. A position, a symbol, not a person. His vision blurred, but he refused to cry. Crying was weakness. That's what he was taught. A soft knock came at the door. Jungkook? Taeyong's voice. Jungkook folded the letter carefully and opened the door. Taeyong didn't ask to read it. He didn't reach for it. He just looked at Jungkook's face. Bad news, Taeyong said quietly. Jungkook gave a small nod. He wants me back. Taeyong didn't smile. Didn't look angry. What do you want? He asked. The question stunned Jungkook. No one had ever asked him that. I don't know, Jungkook admitted. But I know what he wants. Taeyong held out his hand. Come walk with me. They walked through the palace halls, then out into the city. No guards followed. You could go back, Taeyong said as they stopped near the river inside the city. I won't stop you. Jungkook stared at the flowing water. If I go back, he said slowly, this place becomes my enemy again. Taeyong turned to him. And if you stay? My father becomes my enemy, Jungkook whispered. Taeyong was quiet for a moment. Then he said, sometimes, enemies are only people who refuse to see us as human. Jungkook's chest tightened. He clenched the letter in his fist. For the first time, he understood something painful and clear. His father had never asked if Jungkook was okay, but his enemy had. Jungkook noticed it in small things first. A servant who lingered too long near his door. A man in the market who followed them without buying anything. Whispers that stopped when Jungkook turned his head. He didn't say anything. But Taeyong noticed. That night, Taeyong stopped outside Jungkook's room. You're not alone here, he said calmly. Jungkook frowned. I know. Taeyong shook his head slightly. Not in that way. Jungkook felt a chill. You think my father sent spies? I'm certain, Taeyong replied. Jungkook's chest tightened. So, am I a prisoner now? Taeyong met his eyes, firm and steady. No, you're protected. There was a difference. That night, Taeyong ordered the guards, but not loudly. No panic, no drama. The palace remained calm. The spies moved anyway. They came dressed as traitors, slipping through the lower halls where guests were usually allowed. They didn't make it far. Taeyong stood waiting in the corridor, hands behind his back, as if he had always been there. You crossed a border you were warned about, Taeyong said softly. The men froze. You will leave, Taeyong continued, alive, because my guest does not deserve bloodshed in his name. Jungkook watched from the doorway. Heart pounding. No shouting. No violence. Just control. The men were escorted out before dawn. Later, Jungkook found Taeyoung on the balcony overlooking the city. You didn't tell me, Jungkook said. Taeyoung didn't turn. You were already afraid enough. Jungkook swallowed. You risked war. Taeyoung finally looked at him like this. Taeyoung's gaze softened, not weak, just honest. Because, he said, if harm comes to you here, it proves your father right. Jungkook's throat tightened. And because, Taeyoung added after a pause, you trusted me. That night, Jungkook slept deeply for the first time in years. Not because there were guards outside, but because he knew exactly who was standing between him and the world. A few days passed quietly. No letters, no spies, no threats. And yet, Taeyoung was always there. Not in an obvious way. He walked beside Jungkook during morning rounds through the city. He sat across from him during meals, never rushing, always listening. When Jungkook stopped to watch something, a street performer, a child feeding birds, Taeyoung stopped too. Never ahead, never pulling him along. Jungkook noticed. At first, it made him nervous. You don't have to stay with me all the time, Jungkook said one afternoon as they walked through the palace gardens. Taeyoung glanced at him. I know. Then why do you? Taeyoung thought for a moment. Because you look less lost when you're not alone. Jungkook's steps slowed. No one had ever noticed that about him. They sat near the fountain, sunlight dancing on the water. You treat everyone like this? Jungkook asked quietly. Taeyoung shook his head. No. The answer came too easily. Then why me? Jungkook whispered. Taeyoung turned to face him fully. His voice was calm but honest. Because you don't pretend, he said. You don't hide behind your title when you're tired. You're real. Jungkook's chest warmed in a way he didn't understand. For the first time in his life, someone saw him, not the crown. That evening, Jungkook realized something strange. Taeyoung stayed, even when there was nothing to do. They stood on the balcony together in comfortable silence. You don't get bored? Jungkook asked softly. Taeyoung smiled, small, rare. No. Jungkook looked at him. You make me feel important. Taeyoung's expression softened. You are, he said simply. Not because you're a prince, because you're Jungkook. The words settled deep. That night, as Jungkook lay in bed, he realized something that scared him more than war ever had. Taeyoung wasn't guarding him anymore, he was choosing him. And that made Jungkook feel special.